Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Time Out with Jacko Kings podcast. I hope you're doing well. I have got another special guest on. So, Mystery Man, introduce yourself.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tim. I'm 20 years old from Germany, Bavaria. There's just a couple of things you need to know about me, which is that I work for the German railway company. And music-wise, I started music production in 2016, started with Future House, and now I'm pretty much dedicated to pop music.
So, let's get started with some of the questions. So, Tim, I know you've been signed to labels, but what labels have you been signed to? So people know, kind of thing.
So yeah, my first release was last year in I think it was October. In the end of October, I signed my first track to a record label called Tune Out Records. It's from Munich.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much also my first pop track. So I always produced like future house stuff, but I never actually signed it anywhere. So the first actual track was indeed like dance pop music.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much it.
And we have our release, which we're going to talk about in this podcast as well, on Future House Cloud, which is going to be released on Tuesday, which is pretty good. So, why do you continue with pop over Future House? Is it because you don't like it anymore? Is it there's too many people doing it? What is it?
Well,
what made you go to pop?
I believe it's because too many people are doing it, and like the most important part here is that it actually sells a lot better. It's more commercial, and it's way more likely to get, say, 1 million plays because of the huge audience. And it's a lot simpler to produce. Like, if you have a future house track and you're producing like the bass line of it, it takes like 5 layers, in like bad cases even more. And it takes much time to mix it well in future house, and you don't have that in pop music. There's like, say, a number of max 3 layers with one element, and it's time saving, definitely time saving.
And I think with future houses, like we said just then, it's a lot of people are doing it, so everyone's just jumping on the bandwagon to be trendy, essentially. And I think with pop music, you hear a lot more of it. Like, I've seen it, like, pop music is played like everywhere you go, whether you're in Germany, whether you're in England, whether you're in Holland. It's just a universal thing.
It's a thing that's played everywhere in the world.
So another question that I added onto this was, so there's some people, we may have people that want to get doing pop music. So we're going to kind of give people some tips, like how to get started. So what do you think people should do to get started in making pop music?
I think the most important thing is to listen to a lot of pop tracks in the first place, and then figuring out what elements they use compared to future house, to EDM. So like, there is a bunch of tracks out there in the top 10 that have, for example, an 808 bass, which is pretty new for pop music because it's used to be in like trap and hip hop, but now it's getting more popular in pop music. So if you take a look at other producers, what they do, what they use, like elements wise, you will notice that there's a lot of elements coming from different genres into pop. And if you want to make your own pop track, you should use your knowledge in different genres you've produced, and
I think
try to combine it with more like poppy elements. For example, take some really warm chords, like plucky chords always work. Take more instrumentals. There's plugins called Contact, and you have, for Contact, there's so many good libraries out there that are free, and you can use them for your pop music production.
I think I've heard funk, like even though you get the funky bass line, which you usually think, oh, that's just funk and the stuff, especially like Dua Lipa, and I think Ellis sometimes does it.
Ellis does it.
It's like a funky guitar, and it shows you how easy it is for that type of guitar to like cross over. And I'd say don't be afraid of trying new things with pop music, because you don't really know if you don't try. If you're just going with the mindset of I tried this, people don't like it, but when people react to it and like it, then you know it's working. You know, you don't go in
Yeah,
half-heartedly.
like look, it won't work if you're not entirely sure you want to do this. If you're just forcing yourself, it won't work. So that's
It has
another
to
thing to
be
keep in mind.
natural. Don't force
You
yourself
you
to
have
do
to
that
like
thing.
it, of course. If you want to make pop music because you know it sells good, well, get somebody to ghost produce it who is like really into
Yeah.
this. But you won't have that success.
And I think as well, what's it called? I believe like with music, like pop music, is don't expect to be like I'm in it for the money,
Oh
because
no,
it just
that's
translates over. It's like, oh, they just made that track because they wanted a bit of money, you know.
well, but we all know that music production doesn't pay that good. Even if you're like a bigger artist, you still get like all the money from the companies that like make promotion, like you know.
So the next question we're going to focus on. We're going to talk about our release on Tuesday, which is big for both of us. Um, So how did our release like come about, like the pop track? Like have we got any good moments, bad moments when we made this?
So yeah, our track started last year with like a simple idea of mine, like in late summer of last year. I showed Jack my ID, and he instantly had this idea of adding like some of his elements, like the chords that are in the drop of our track. That's like one of Jack's say signature sounds. And back then he taught me how to recreate this sound in my track. So this is how our track came together, and then we started working together to finish this project.
Yeah,
And yeah.
I think we had the thing where I wasn't, and I think once we got it finished, we were pitching it to labels, and
That's
I
that's one
think
of the
yeah,
most intense moments of this track, because we almost gave up because literally every major label, pop EDM label, said no. When suddenly Jack casually emailed Bjorn from Future House Cloud, and they just took it like after a week.
I nonchalantly just emailed and walked in like, "Hey, track."
And like this made no sense for me when Jack showed me that email, because you know Future House Cloud, it already says in the name it's Future House label, and we have a pop track, so that was kind of weird for me. That
Then again, we could argue it's future pop, you know.
it's future pop, true, yeah.
I think with the mix mash, I think I wasn't in the country. It was during ADE last year, and I wasn't in the country. I think I was flying over the next day, like the next day to
Yeah.
and then I land, and then Tim just comes up to me. He's like, "Yo, Jack, I went to the mix mash demo drop," and I was like, "All right then, yeah." Like nonchalantly, as I always do, um, nodding, and he goes, "Oh yeah, Laidback Luke said he liked it." I was like, "Wait, what?"
So yeah, that was quite funny, because as Jack already said, he wasn't there, and I took the opportunity to actually let Lightback Luke listen to my track, and I was kind of surprised that he was like, this would fit for a deep label, like what the fuck. And then like after the celebrations, like months later, we reached out to their A&Rs, because I got their email after the demo drop, and sadly no response.
Yeah, if they did respond, then the track would have probably been on Mix Mash. But we kind of thought, well, we weren't going to be disheartened and say, "Oh, look, the track's not good," you know. But
Well,
because
at
it
least
was
we
good,
can say it's been supported by him, by Laidback Luke.
yeah. And that's a good thing. Is like I know there'll be people that are listening to this and is like, oh, I've been rejected by this label or this, or I didn't get
Like
this
most
certain
people
deal.
didn't even get the opportunity to actually let this label listen to your track.
It's like honestly, don't be disheartened if they say, look, we don't they don't listen to it, because you can move on. You move on to new things. You go, oh, okay, they don't want to listen to it, I'll move on to someone else.
What matters the most is that they recognize you again, like after you've talked to them. So even if you know they're not going to sign it, make sure that you stay in their minds, in their head, so they will remember you when you come back to them with an actual good track.
Yeah, it's like being resilient as well, having the ability to bounce back after something puts you back, kind of thing. I think the next question I did have was, should people like give, like, this is for artists or musicians or anyone just is doing music. Tim, what do you think on people giving up on music during this hard time, and what can we kind of say to them to keep them going and keeping them motivated to keep producing or making more music and releasing?
So like during this time, I would say there's never been an easier, or basically easier time to make music, because most people are restricted to going outside, and I think that's really beneficial
Yeah,
if you have a lot of time. Even though, like, let's say you're like one of the people who lost their jobs because of that thing. Don't let this bad vibe overcome you. Try to feel positive about every situation. I know it sounds hard,
yeah,
and you might not understand it right now, but if you keep making music, you will feel a lot better.
yeah. And I've also found that even if I'm not making music, and I think this could happen to some people may relate to this, is I don't. So when I'm not making music, I at least check in with my like people that make music, like my friends. Um, so it's like check in on Tim and Sam and all that, because we have like a group chat on WhatsApp where we all just check in on each other and just chat.
Yeah,
Because
communication, chatting is like really, really effective overcoming like bad vibes,
it's because
depression.
if you just block yourself, like you just lock yourself away and don't talk to anyone, oh, that is a whole heap of trouble waiting to happen.
And if you're thinking like you don't have any friends or so, there's like plenty of discords, open communities that are welcoming you as soon as you join.
And also a cheeky plug. If you are in listening to this and you'd be like, oh, maybe I want to join a Discord community to like where I can post like my artwork or something creative or music, or you just want to just sit there and have this the sense of a community during this hard time, you can always join the good old Jacko Kings Discord. Cheeky plug there. But you can join. It's just a family kind of vibe. We're all there. You can chat. You can play Pokécard if you really like Pokemon. Currently, Bowker is playing this game like non-stop. You can play Akinator. It's just loads of fun stuff. And so I will probably, if you check out my Instagram, I may just ask me on Instagram and I'll give you the link, and you can join that. So back on topic. So are there any songs that have been released like this week, Tim, that you're like
Mhm.
constantly like clicking repeat, like on loop? So like for me is the new Blinders track on Stamped. I believe it's called, yeah, right. Let me have a look. Yeah, it's like right there or something like that, which I like or something. Uh, is there any tracks that you're really into at the moment?
I think there's one track that really stuck out, and it's called Something Real. It's from Leno, and I believe he's one of the most talented producers out there, because just he has like this funky but also poppy
Yeah,
sound design, and it's just so unique, and the vibe is already there. Like after 2 seconds, you already want to listen to the whole track.
yeah.
So if you want to listen to it, it's called Something Real from Leno.
It's like so good. Like I'll even say this now is because of what's going on in the world and this and that. The kind of thing is, don't be disheartened because there's a lot of new music coming out to try and combat this. So we're trying to bring out a lot of new music. I'm trying a lot of new sounds and this, that, and everything. But I'm also trying to, and I'd say this for artists as well as musicians, is if you do have a somewhat of a fan base, try to connect with them during
Oh
this
yeah.
time. Like
Even
message
if you
them.
like 10 followers, message them, get in touch with them.
Like I message a few of my followers, checking if they're okay, because I'm one of those people that believes that connecting with your fans means one, on the good side, you'll get listeners, you get your listeners up, but two, you look like a really nice person that wants to connect with people. You got anything else to add on that, Tim? Kind of.
Well, I do agree on what you've said so far. But yeah, getting in touch with your followers is never a bad idea. Also, keeping people posted is also good. So regular posts on Instagram should be something you can do in your
Yeah.
free time.
It's
And
like I have a target of posting every in those 4 days. I try and post within those 4 days.
exactly. So make sure you have content to show your followers, because if you don't post anything but just talk to them, they'll be like, yeah, cool, but like, where's new music? Where's new pictures?
Like,
People
don't
want to see.
regurgitate content. Don't like recycle the same photo unless it's a throwback Thursday or a throwback Tuesday. Post something new. Even if you're like, I've heard people that go, Jack, my content isn't interesting. Hell, you could post a picture of a window with cars outside,
Yeah,
and people still like that.
I'm
And
just
I
wanna
did
point
that,
out.
by the way, and I actually did very well.
You know what's kind of funny of this? Like last year or 2 years ago, there was like this most liked picture on Instagram by Kylie Jenner, and
Oh, that egg,
it got beaten by a picture of an egg. So don't
an
think
egg.
that any content is like useless or not interesting. Everything can become interesting if you do the right marketing and find the right audience.
Yeah. And a tool I'd suggest as well, which I do a lot in my posts now, is if you've got a boring photo and it's got no color or anything, if you use Lightroom, you can. There's loads of filters and tutorials on how to make filters online. If you want to make a filter to make your photos look better, it's worth a shout to make all your pictures look pretty because
Even if you don't have like Lightroom or all these expensive like programs, there's a program called GIMP, GIMP, and it's free to use, and you can basically do like at least half of what's possible with Lightroom. Still good.
yeah, it's like possibilities are endless. What you can do with your content. We get to go on to the fun question of management or someone having just someone who keeps you organized. So we can both agree on this and talk about this. So, what's it like having someone help to keep you motivated and keep you focused on your goals, kind of thing, keeping
It's
you organized?
like my management. It's my girlfriend, Isabel. She's doing like a really good job keeping me motivated, and yeah,
I think,
without
yeah.
her, like I would already have quit.
Yeah, I think with me is with my management. I won't say too much because they're probably listening, probably telling me not to say stuff. But the sense of just having people that keep you driven on your goals and giving you tips to make things better than what you're already doing, um, and also keeping you pushed on the right direction because you may often
Exactly.
diverge off the track. You're on like a train track and you might go off the track, and it's their job to push you back onto the track and say, look, you're doing this way too wrong, this is what you need to do. And it's also
Always
they
having a second pair of ears that that has a different like view of what you're doing.
Yeah, you don't necessarily need, and I'll say this now, you don't necessarily need someone who's a music producer or anything. You may just want them just to listen to it and then go, oh, it sounds nice, or something's not right, because you can often find the producer that'll tell you what's wrong with it. And there'll be people like, Jack, I want management. And I'll see people that are going, I want management. And it's like, you don't need management just yet. It's if you get found by management and they offer you something, then well done, bravo! I'm giving you a clap here right now. I sound so sarcastic doing that, but I'm trying just to say, don't rush into things. Don't rush to get management.
Like
Don't.
if you feel like
Yeah.
you don't need a manager or anything, you can
If
still ask like friends of you if they want to like help you out having a schedule or anything. I think if they're really close friends, they won't say no.
it's like making you have like a manager in a way helps you keep to have a schedule, keeps you driven towards your goals. It gives you the tips that you might be missing something on your social media. Your social media isn't popping enough, or um, something like that. They do all that to try and help you. And if you aren't willing to take the feedback from your management, then you shouldn't be having management in a way,
Exactly, yeah.
because they're the ones that are trying to make you better.
And if
You
you
know,
don't like what they're saying, they're probably right most of the time.
because I've seen a lot of young musicians, producers, they try to like they see someone they know with management, so they immediately rush to their management. It's like doesn't mean that they got a manager. That management company or that individual wants to manage you. And it pains me to say it, but that is the blunt truth. Like, don't assume that the manager of Martin Garrix, because he manages Martin Garrix, he doesn't want to manage you.
Right.
Because you're just a no. And I will say that bluntly. You know, you aren't yet at that level of him as got like Martin Garrix or Ed Sheeran or Louis Capaldi, those type of people. When you get to that level, then that's how they start going, oh yeah, do you want me to manage you? You know.
Yeah.
And we agree on the same thing with the like what we said with pop music. Don't force it through.
Don't force anything.
Don't force management through. Don't force music through. Don't force things on
If
people
you're not
because
feeling like doing it right now, then don't do it. But always keep in mind that you should eventually give it a shot, even though you don't want to. Maybe because you might find some inspiration.
yeah, like baby steps, baby step everything.
Yeah, right.
On the
Don't
next, yeah,
don't feel like you're gonna have success in the next week. That's really unlikely.
you
Always
don't
think
wake
in
up.
long term.
I don't wake up thinking I'm going to get another release. If I could, I would.
Yeah, it
But
always happens
yeah.
like random.
So we've obviously with the events going on right now, and I kind of put this more as a relevant one. It sounded like irrelevant then. A relevant thing at the moment is because COVID is still doing
Still
a
a
lot
thing.
of damage, essentially. So, Tim, what are your thoughts on like COVID shutting down the festival scene, and what have you kind of been doing in the lockdown kind of thing?
So I believe all the actions that have been taken by the government are definitely not bad. Also, banning like bigger festivals is never a good bad idea because of the high risk of spreading. You know, we already have heard it everywhere. But I can tell you what's happening here in Germany. There was a not that of a big lockdown. There was restrictions, like you were still allowed to go out getting groceries and stuff, but there was never
Yeah,
like a restriction that there was like police checking the streets if somebody's outside. That was not the case, and
yeah,
we still had a lot of freedom to do things we needed to do.
yeah. And
And
I think,
right
I,
now,
yeah,
yeah, the restrictions and the curfews have been lifted a bit, so it's starting to get back into normal.
Yeah. I'd say with the whole festival scene for artists, like it's not just DJs who are affected, it's like people that make pop music like Ed Sheeran and stuff like that who usually do touring and stuff, they can't tour. It take from the EDM point of view, from all of us producers who do DJing, and it's hard for us because we like doing the
Well,
shows, you
yeah,
know.
like doing shows is like really was one of the most beneficial parts of being a DJ, and like they get the most money from doing that. But here's the thing, like even though we're restricted in things, we still are able to do music, and that's a good thing. We are able to produce a lot more stuff than compared to last year in this time. So we can prepare for next year already by just making
Yeah,
a lot of music. Like bigger artists now have the time to pre-produce tracks that will be released next year, maybe, so they
yeah,
have more time for doing more shows next year. So it's not bad right now. You just have to think for the future.
yeah. And it's like what I like to say. You prepared to fail, not fail to prepare. And to be honest, I know Tim. I know. I think we were going to do I think one of the friends that we know was planning an event during ADE. But if ADE doesn't go ahead, it looks like we've missed out on a potential show.
But then
Um,
everything we have planned will be continued next year, so nothing is lost, just
yeah,
moved to a different time.
we just missed a show. Well, like people will be like, "Oh, I missed the show to not see Jacko Kings or
It's not
Mithlox
that it's
or
not happening ever again, so it's just coming
yeah."
back next year.
We like the one of the things that I'm pretty vocal about now is virtual festivals. So rather than you actually having to go there, virtual festivals on like YouTube, Discord. Fun fact: and I'll say this here and there. There are festivals on Minecraft. Okay,
There's
you
been like
know,
festivals on everything you can imagine.
Roblox,
Everything that's
Fortnite.
Yeah, it's just so crazy. You never thought that would have like been a thing in a year ago.
Yeah, and it's like virtual festivals. Even if you're missing out on a real show, you still get the experience of a real show from home. Like you can go to your fridge, get beer for free actually,
Don't
and
have
you
to
can
pay for drinks. That's a good thing, right?
yeah, you don't have to deal with someone spilling your drink when you're walking through the club, which that happens to me quite a lot, and apparently people blame me for that, and it isn't me. It's it's drunk people, very drunk people. Um, but Tim, are you going to be doing any virtual shows or festivals, or what are you going to do while the festival
Like I
scene's on a
never, I
pause?
never, yeah, I never really focused on DJing at all. Like I know how to DJ, and I certainly have had some gigs now and then, but nothing too crazy. So
Yeah,
I didn't plan anything for like virtual things. I'd rather keep producing and trying to
yeah.
make something that's like music wise.
Yeah, I can say I'm doing a virtual show, well, festival. Um, so I'll probably post more about that when I get more details on Instagram and all my like social media kind of thing, so people can find out what I'm doing.
And if it's
Um,
already out, if you're listening in the future, check out his Instagram. It should be there.
yeah, if you're listening in the future, if you're some time travel or something, you know, or I'm DJing at that festival before I even know the actual date, well, you're a time traveler. Um, tell me how my future's going for me. Yeah. Tim, so I know we often every October we all meet up, we all go and party together, we all have dinner together. What are your thoughts on ADE running this year? Or you thinking they're gonna go, nah, how are we gonna do this
Um,
with social distancing?
so I think ADE with social distancing is a challenge. I believe it's not happening because like people are like it's the main purpose of going to ADE to meet up with
Yeah,
people, and if the main element of this whole event is missing, then I don't think it would make sense to even run
Yeah.
it or host it. So I would rather pass on this year's ADE, even if it's happening,
Yeah.
and wait for next year, because the experience you will get if it happens won't be the same as compared to last or next year.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think that's one of the big things is that year is like, I know Dan's Fair got cancelled, but they're trying to push that to October, but then they'll have to follow social distancing as well, and that's going to prove tricky. But I think for people that like, besides all the what's going on, I have talked about ADE in the past in this podcast with Valkence, saying what his experiences are with it. Tim, what's your experience with ADE, and have you kind of benefited from it? And
even though, okay, let's talk about ADE.
yeah,
Like one of the big downsides of ADE is it's pricey. So like, even though the ticket itself isn't that expensive, if you get the ADE card, it's like $20. But like traveling there, like let's say you live in fucking Australia. Sorry for saying that. Should be censored now.
yeah, you probably
No, but if you live in Australia, you might have a pretty hard time getting there because it's like on the other side of the world, or even if you live in the States, it's a lot of money you gotta pay to get there.
yeah,
But I can tell you, it's totally worth it, because connecting to the people you've talked with, like, or chatted with, is so beneficial for your production, because you meet up in person, you can talk about and show each other what you're working on, how you do it. Like connecting is, I would say, the most important thing in music.
yeah,
Connecting with other artists so that you learn from each other.
yeah,
And and just learning to, or getting to know other producers you might not be able to meet in like online or
yeah.
chatting, like, it's worth it.
Yeah, and what I liked about it is with ADE is, I talked to Tim, I talked to Sam, but they if you just talk on a voice call, people don't kind of get the full picture of like what you are and like away from the screen. But it's like ADE lets you, be away from the screen kind of thing.
And
Um,
all the big artists are coming to ADE as well, so you might even be able to actually talk to these artists. You're like, they're inspiring you, and you can say that
yeah,
to them. You can ask them for advice, because no one will have a better advice than somebody that has already made that big
yeah,
step you're looking for to make, right? Master classes and all these things are so important that even like a
yeah.
ticket price of like $400 would be worth it, just for the
Mm.
experience and the knowledge you get or gain.
Yeah, it's funny because during some events during ADE, I was getting recognized left, right, and center. I was like, they're like, "Oh, you're Jack." And I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" And they're like, "You're really talented, man. You're gonna go far." And I was like, "Thanks." Like, I don't
It's
expect
nothing.
that.
You didn't expect that at all. Like, people actually recognize you.
Oh, I thought it was gonna be some like 1930s American like gonna come up to me and go, "You're gonna be a star, kid."
And
Just like,
I definitely believe that this is like really motivating
uh,
hearing that.
yeah.
Hasn't happened to me, but let's see what the future brings.
Yeah, I know it's uncertain, and I know people will be like, "What do I do? How am I going to cope?" But me and Tim will say here and there, "Hang in there. We will get through this."
Yeah.
W- like, music's still going to be coming, and I know if you're like, I want to be at a festival, if they're offering an alternative to the festival, like an online one, but it's free, then by all means take that. I'm not going to go into the big deal of saying, because some people probably were like, Jackie, you go to festivals. How do I get refund? It's like, this ain't the podcast for you to get refunds. And
Yeah, this is a refund.
yeah. That's if this was a refund podcast, I would have changed that to that name now. But just to end the episode off in a way, is there any last remarks you want to say, Tim, about
Well,
Anything you got to say?
of course, take care, everybody, and don't quit. Don't fall into like a deep hole of bad vibes. Always keep in touch with people that you feel make you in a better mood. And yeah, that's all I can say.
You're gonna plug your social media? Are you gonna do that as well?
Yeah, sure. If you mind, you can check my Instagram. It's called @TimDerPianist. So Tim DER pianist in one word, and leave a follow if you feel like this is the right thing, or don't do
Yeah.
anything.
And I think from me, like last remarks, if you don't already follow the podcast, you can hit the follow button. I do put these into a playlist, which is on my artist page. So if you do want to follow the podcast, or you've missed 4 million episodes, you can go back and you can go and listen to the ones that you want to listen to. And you can hit a follow on that as well. As always, you can follow my social media at Jacko Kings on Instagram. And other than that, I think I'll see you guys in the next podcast. Thank you, Tim, for actually coming on and just being
My
that
pleasure.
special guest, so I didn't have to sit in social isolation recording the solo podcast on my own.
All right. Thank you so much